Minnesota is a hub of industry with numerous Fortune 500 companies located here in the state. Minnesota-produced goods are in demand in both domestic and international markets. The industries that use the freight transportation system contribute about 40% to Minnesota's gross state product. This network links to industries and provides access through Minnesota, the upper Midwest, nationally, and to key international import and export ports. Between now and 2040, annual freight tonnage is expected to grow in Minnesota by 80%, from 1 billion tons today to 1.8 billion tons in the future. This increase in tonnage will place additional stress on the system, and areas that are congested today, like the Twin Cities metro region, will be more congested and carry more trucks in the future, resulting in more delay for freight shippers. In addition, Minnesota is expected to face additional challenges, including maintaining and improving the transportation system with constrained resources, lack of competitive service and modal alternatives for shippers, safety of hazardous materials transportation, including crude oil, truck driver and workforce shortages, competition for business from neighboring states, additional industry regulations, and environmental pressures. For these reasons, we must plan for the future of the freight system here in Minnesota. Minnesota's statewide freight system plan is one component of MnDOT's family of plans. Other modal plans provide input to the statewide freight system plan and vice versa. All of MnDOT's planning is done in accordance with the goals of the Minnesota Go 50-year vision, focusing on quality of life, environmental health, and economic competitiveness. The Freight Plan provides a policy framework and strategies for MnDOT and other public and private sector freight stakeholders to guide planning and investment in various transportation modes. A diverse array of stakeholders were engaged in the development of the statewide freight system plan. These included a Plan Advisory Committee, which consisted of policy leaders and directors from all levels of government and industry. These are the big picture thinkers who provided high-level policy guidance on issues and strategies. A technical team of technical freight experts at the state and regional levels. These are the implementers who will facilitate coordination and partnership to get freight projects done. A project management team comprised of staff from various offices within MnDOT. This team guided development of the freight plan and coordinated with the Minnesota Freight Advisory Committee, or MFAC. The Minnesota Freight Advisory Committee is a partnership between government and business that meets quarterly to exchange ideas and recommend policy and actions. In addition to the committees, other engagement included dynamic working groups, which provided input on freight infrastructure, performance measures, freight policy, and MFAC direction and development. Industry interviews with key businesses and freight companies across the state, meetings with all of the metropolitan planning organizations statewide, neighboring state interviews with states and Canadian provinces sharing borders with Minnesota, freight summits in December 2014 and December 15 to gather public and private sector freight industry leaders, MnDOT district meetings with planners and engineers in all of the MnDOT districts, tribal government engagement with tribal transportation leaders. Public open houses and 2 rounds of online engagement collected information on freight needs and priorities. From this outreach, we heard that those involved in freight movement are most concerned about system reliability, safety, congestion, bridge and pavement condition, and economic development. Needs for all modes were identified, but the highway system topped the list. There is a recognition that public-private partnerships and coordination will be key to addressing these issues. All of this input influenced the Freight Plan's Freight Action Agenda. That agenda houses all Freight Plan recommendations in a single place and highlights timing of actions and roles for government and business partners that contributed to plan development. Ongoing, the agenda will work as a guide for implementation, be regularly updated, and serve as a tool for monitoring progress and fostering continued collaboration. The Freight Action Agenda identified 30 strategies to advance freight in Minnesota, grouped under overarching objectives related to partnerships and communication, system connectivity, managing assets, safety, and balancing freight and community. Key strategies include integrating freight into transportation planning and project development, developing a freight system investment plan, using a performance-based approach to make strategic investments on Minnesota's principal freight network, using advanced technology to provide better information and operate the system cost-effectively, and advocating for freight projects and dedicated freight funding. This plan is a call to action. The recommendations will require collaboration between and within government and business, and among all modes of transportation. Partnerships were key in developing this plan, and partnerships will be key to implementing and maintaining the plan. As a key partner, the Minnesota Freight Advisory Committee has committed to monitor and report on the implementation of the statewide freight system plan and its freight action agenda, including the development of recommendations for any revisions and updates to the plan. By having a body comprised of public and private freight stakeholders from around the state, the plan's recommendations will stay at the front of freight conversations, and each stakeholder will know their roles and responsibilities. The completion of the Minnesota statewide freight system plan and development of a solid freight action agenda aids the state in addressing the known issues of today and preparing for the uncertainties of the future. With government and private industry working together, we can achieve a safe, efficient, and reliable freight system.